Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Tech Talks with NASCOM Insights. Being one of the fastest growing economies in the world, India continues to attract multinational companies to tap into its rich and diverse ecosystem. Global Capability Centers, or GCCs as we call them, have witnessed incredible growth in employee base and revenues, especially over the last 5 years. Today, India plays host to a flourishing GCC community with estimated over 1,430 GCCs and employing over 1.38 million people in FY21. I am Sonia Charak, analyst at NASCOM Insights, leading the GCC initiatives in NASCOM and responsible for working on digital transformation specific initiatives as well. I will be your host for this session. In our today's discussion, we are joined by two of the most prominent GCC leaders and segment experts in discussion. Let me introduce Sukanya Roy, GCC and BPM head at NASCOM. Sukanya heads the GCC and BPM initiatives and growth strategies for NASCOM and has been pioneering expert in the GCC segment with over a decade of experience handholding GCCs setting up in India. Also joining us today, Mohammad Faraz Khan, Principal and Delivery Head of the GCOE Accelerator Program at Zenov Consulting. Faraz is an experienced management consultant with a rich experience of advising MNCs on their growth, transformation, talent, and innovation strategies. Sukanya and Faraz, a huge thank you for offering your time and consistent support for this initiative to bring a comprehensive discussion on how GCC's growth in India has evolved over the years and how the GCCs have been leveraging India as a preferred destination.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thanks for having me, Sonia.
Sure. Let me set the context a bit. NASCOM has been contributing in the growth journey of GCC since the beginning. There's no doubt in saying that India is now referred as near synonym to GCCs and is continuing to lead as a favored GCC destination globally. This is due to the fact that it offers a unique ecosystem that includes academia, startups, service providers, industry bodies, etc., talent, city infrastructure, and government support. This year, NASCOM partnered with Zenov Consulting to work on a GCC India landscape report, aiming to highlight facts and insights on Indian GCC landscape, including a detailed assessment of the maturity journey in India and also how India has made an impact on GCC parent organizations. After 4 months of exhaustive research, we publish a comprehensive study this month. I invite all of our listeners to explore the GCC India landscape study and its findings at the links provided in the description below. Before we dive in, I would like to get any starting comments from our panelists. Sukanya and Faraz, if you would like to share anything before we get started.
So let me go first here. I think it's been an interesting journey developing the report. The ecosystem and the community. I would use the word community really for this industry segment because the strong community sense that they have in terms of working together and building the ecosystem from scratch. The community itself has been very supportive to the industry at large, as well as the country as a whole. And in our earlier research, we found that GCCs contribute to 1% of India's GDP, which is extremely significant contribution and makes it very, very important for us to think about this segment, to think about what next for this segment and how that weaves into the story for India.
True. Great. Thanks, Sukanya. Faraz, over to you.
Yeah, so I think adding to what Sukanya just mentioned, right? Extremely, in fact, if you look at it, the GCC ecosystem, and I'm going to refer to GCC as GCC, GCO interchangeably. Don't mind that. The ecosystem itself has been evolving at a rapid pace, right? But what really has changed the game is, in my opinion, the pandemic itself, right? Just in terms of the rapid requirement of digital in terms of across industries, right, has really picked up And given that, I think it's almost a 2.0 for GCCs, in India across and across the globe as well, right? And for global organizations, I think that's an interesting time. And I think the report release, at this particular time is extremely important to one capture the trends that we're seeing right now, and what the future holds for all of us.
Right. Thanks for us. Great. Let's get started with our discussion then. So the first topic that we'll be discussing today is the GCC growth trajectory and future potential in India. We've seen augmented GCC growth, particularly in the past few years, wherein GCCs in India have been witnessed to build multifunction portfolios that are being driven from India. GCCs have been seen not only expanding their portfolios vertically, but also functions too, across functions too. We would be deep diving into the details on how the GCC's growth trajectory looks like in the future and what is the GCC future potential in India look like in this part of the discussion. With that, I would like to bring in Sukanya to share her thoughts. Sukanya, the global players and unicorns have been realizing higher business growth owing to digitalization and high-tech investments in India. If you could throw some light on what would be the GCC's business growth drivers in addition to higher tech investments, and what could we expect in the future, that would be great.
Sure, sure. So, let me just give some data, that we know because of our research today, right? Of course, the ecosystem is flourishing. We are huge. We're probably one of the biggest players in this domain globally. Probably the first country that comes to people's mind. But if you just look at our penetration, if you take the global 2000 companies, only 15% of them have presence in India. If you look at 750 unicorns that we have today, and then of course a few that got added since we came up with the report, we have potential for at least 670 of them to come into India, barring, that obviously 670 number assumes that the Indian ones are all here, obviously. So the growth potential that we see is significant, and like you said, tech investments will be a primary driver, but there are going to be 2, 3 other drivers. One is going to be business and domain understanding. So we also have to understand that, the India is also the largest base for business process management, whether it's within the GCCs or it's with the third-party service provider, which means that the understanding of business functions is immense here. So let's say tomorrow somebody wants to disrupt the finance process digitally. They can invest into any country, but they will invest into that tech investment in India, because the number of people that they will get who understand the finance process and what automation will work and where automation will fail will be very, very high. So to me, that is going to be an important criteria, is we can't forget the domain knowledge that we have while we focus on the tech knowledge. And the second one would be the market itself. I mean, India is slowly becoming a larger market for most organizations, and also a place to experiment for many emerging countries. So while India as such may be a very small market for many multinationals, but if we pick out, a bunch of emerging nations like India, it adds up to be a significant market. So where is it that they can get the market exposure on what these developing or so-called fast developing economies need? That's going to be India. So I think these two are going to be critical in, drivers, apart from digital transformation and tech investments, which are very obvious ones.
Yeah, sure. Wonderfully put, Sukanya. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. I completely agree with you that along with IT investments and the knowledge of business and domain, as well as the market of India in itself, these are going to be the driving factors of the GCC ecosystem. With that, I would like to invite Faraz and ask him. Faraz, in a recent NASSCOM Zinnov report, we provided some insights around the estimated GCC market size of India by 2025. According to the report, India will likely have over 1900 GCCs and will likely generate revenues of around 60 billion by 2025. Based on your experience, what could be the immediate priorities for the GCCs to augment this growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a very valid question there, Sonia. See, what we're looking at is 500 new, GCCs potentially entering the India ecosystem, right? That number is unheard of earlier, right? We're clearly seeing, a lot of enthusiasm from global markets in India, and because of good reasons, right? In terms of proven capabilities and especially the way we've managed the pandemic. Having said that, really to harness this potential that we have in terms of the global organizations, to Sukanya's point earlier, in terms of having a majority of Fortune 2000 organizations yet to set pace in India. That's a huge opportunity. But linking that to what should really GCOEs prioritize, I believe absolutely number one is talent, right? I think the reason why companies are even thinking about India is just the talent potential that we have. Now we all know that talent is growing in the GCC ecosystem at about, say, give or take 12%, and has been the case for some time. But having said that, we believe, given the number of GCUs that are expected to come, this will put pressure on the talent ecosystem in India. So it's very important that we ensure that the supply demand scenario is met. If you look at just some of the numbers, even today we have about a supply demand gap of about 300,000, right? And that is expected to slightly increase over the years to come. And as a result, it's extremely important for organizations to rethink what they're doing on talent. And we believe that there are three things that organizations need to really focus on when it comes to augmenting for talent, right? One is, of course, focus on fresh college graduates. We've seen a lot of GCOEs or GCCs focus on, say, point in time hiring from universities. But increasingly, we're seeing a trend of all year hiring from universities, right? And this is for good reason, right? We've seen the internship route, we've seen point in time route, and right now we're seeing all year hiring. And we believe that university hiring is going to play a huge role in meeting the supply demand gap. The second piece is acqui hiring. Acqui hiring is, of course, hiring from startups, where a startup that perhaps is not doing too well is acquired by a larger organization for its talent potential. I think acqui hiring is going to see a significant uptick. We already have seen several use cases of acqui hiring in the GCO ecosystem, and we'll continue to see that increase. And finally, returnship, right? We believe people who've taken break from the career for various reasons, there's a huge potential for us to bring them back into the workforce, and especially women who've left the workforce, right? I think there's a huge potential there on bridging this talent supply demand gap. That's the first piece, in a sense, on talent. The second piece here is on the infrastructure, right? It's very important to understand that given the entire pandemic situation and now that talent has moved remote, a lot of our strategies in the GCOE space are going to be hinged around either the remote working or the hybrid working scenario, right? Now, given this, we have to ensure and enable the best-in-class infrastructure in emerging locations wherever the talent is. Now, this could be through partnerships with associations, with governments, with local bodies, etc. But believe that for India to really prosper as a globalization hub, it's important to take care of tier 2, tier 3 emerging locations, and that's extremely important. Also, to add to that, a lot of organizations are looking at, say, building satellite hubs or satellite offices, or what we are calling nowadays as culture hubs, right? And even more important, that you look at emerging cities and take care of the infrastructure that they need. The third point here in terms of prioritization is really capitalize on the digital transformation wave. There's no two thoughts that one of the key areas where India differentiates itself as a globalization ecosystem is how we have the digital transformation capability, and we've exhibited that. So besides adopting tools and platforms, I think setting up of technology centers of excellence across multiple areas, right? AI, ML, blockchain, data science, analytics, etc., is going to become critical for us, and that's something that we need to augment our capability around. And finally, I think it's just about the mindset, having a global mindset. To be able to build truly global products, you need to understand the mindset of the customer, and I think that is something that we need to really work upon in order to be successful in this entire space. Just another one there is the entire space around regulations and policies. I think given the remote working and the multiple say as ambiguities around transfer pricing, API, etc. I think that's something that we need to also figure out in order to be able to attract these organizations into India and ensure that the GCO ecosystem as such continues to grow.
Yeah, thanks Firas. You mentioned some interesting points there. I can totally echo with what you just said. I think GCC should definitely focus on talent, building right talent, its infrastructure, and it should also it should leverage the digital transformation wave because of the accelerated technology adoption across industries. We already have seen that there was rise in the digital and niche skills capabilities building efforts taken up by the GCCs. So thanks for that. Now, if I talk about how the GCCs used to operate traditionally, I would say that traditionally GCCs were primarily driven to provide the cost and wage arbitrage benefits only to the global organizations. I'm talking about almost a decade ago when the primary value proposition of GCCs was consolidation of transactional activities and productivity improvement and operational cost optimization. However, over the past few years, as their operating model has evolved, the focus of GCCs has gradually shifted to value-adding processes aligned to their aspiration to be a business partner than just being a support organization. If I talk about few statistics here, this sector is providing direct employment of over 1.38 million in FY 2021, has helped in creating world-class infrastructure. You touched upon this point as well for us, providing better quality of life to their employees and helping developing the higher quality talent pool. With that being said, I would like to pose my next question to Sukanya. Sukanya, we know that GCCs have been leveraging the quality talent and capabilities in India and have contributed significantly in return. What has been the talent story of India, and according to you, what next gen capabilities are GCCs developing in India?
So the talent story, I think the talent evolution has been extremely, significant. See, look at India. I mean, our entire tech industry is hinged at one end, possibly with the services, and the other end is probably space. I mean, ISRO and all were, these were the two category where, our tech industry started. So moving from there, if you look at our GCC stories, also a lot of portfolio actually started with business process, then technology came in. Then in the last 10 years, slowly the profile of people working in this increased. We had a lot of experienced people coming in. Last 10 years, I would say there has been a lot of return back to India, which means people from headquarters who've spent years there either came to India for a long-term expat exchange program or chose to come back to India now that there were interesting opportunities. Then came in the boom in terms of the Indian startup ecosystem, which produced significant amount of talent, people who were willing to take risks and experiment with technology, and people who also came with a business mindset. I think these were our triggers. When we started with services industry, there was a gradual incremental maturity that happened over time as people started spending more and more time in the industry, and then there was a bunch of expat and returns, and then the entire startup ecosystem. To me, these were the inflection point which has defined the talent trajectory in India. And today we are at a point that I think we have significant of good amount of managers who understand technology very, very well in GCCs. We have um, good quality tech talent who understand both traditional and new age tech pretty well. We are working hard to get to a point where products become the culture in India. I think there's been a lot of effort. Even NASSCOM has the mandate of 50K product managers by 2050. So there is a lot of focus there. So I think the talent journey has been very, very interesting in the GCCs, and the growth of GCCs is just an example of that. Going forward, I think there will be 3-4 differentiators. One is, how do we groom our leadership? We have very, very good technical managers. How do we bring in the business acumen into that GCC angle? And this is very tricky, because at early stages, GCCs want to differentiate themselves from service providers in terms of how we think about a solution, right? How do we think about ownership? They do want to differentiate, but at a later in a senior stage, a lot of qualities which typically you see in the business mindset, ability to map stakeholders, ability to create a business case, ability to communicate business value, and ability to kind of tune your conversations with the stakeholder on the other side, those become also very important qualities as you grow up, because the growth of a GCC is dependent obviously on how well you prove on your current capabilities, but how well are you willing to take risks out, and how well are you willing to convince global stakeholders to take new risks. So that is, I think, going to be an important area now for GCCs. And obviously all the new age skills, and you talk about anything, data is probably going to be the anchor. Data, artificial intelligence, ML, RPA, cloud, cyber security, these are going to be very, very key components. And I can't stress enough when we say that the world is going to depend on India for these skills, and it's our game to win or our game to lose, depending on how well we prepare. The demand is just there, and people have faith. They will be willing to experiment, but we have to rise up to the occasion and pick up. So I think these two things are going to be the key differentiator. How do we play in the new age skills, and how do we build our leaders? And if you say we do have an advantage, right? Like if you take a mainframe skill, you will have very few people in India who have 30 years or 40 years of mainframe knowledge. But in US, the mainframe, you have people who started in their 60s. So you have people, and they are still working, many of them. But if you take the new age skills, the gap is probably 5 to 10 years. We don't have to cover up 20 years of experience gap. We have to probably cover up 4 to 5 years of experience gap. And so we have that advantage. So I think these are going to be the two key things that we need to focus on. Product mindset, next gen tech, and how do we define our leadership?
Sure, very true. Thanks, Sukanya, and very inspiring too. On top of that, Faraz, if I may have your views on the GCC's ecosystem maturity. So over the years, we've seen a substantial increase in the GCC ecosystem maturity, thereby accelerating the need to hire the right talent and build niche skill capabilities. We've touched upon hiring the right talent and the need to build niche skill capabilities a couple of minutes ago as well. However, I just would want to know your thoughts, and if you could throw some light on, do you agree with this statement and why? If you could just add on to that, that would be great.
Sure, I can do that. So I'd like to paint a perspective, right? Historically, if you look at India GCO ecosystem, the maturity of the ecosystem typically, grew by increased portfolio ownership, right? It could be a particular technology, a product, or a function. How do you have drive more of that particular function from India, right? Then it moved into looking at having multi-function centers, right? So from tech to IT to say shared services, global services, etc. Right? It also included owning end-to-end either modules or entire products from India, right? In a lot of cases, and also was enabled by driving incremental innovation. So now those were the key levers of what which defined maturity of an organization in India. However, we believe that the next wave of maturity will come from companies specifically driving cutting edge digital transformation and innovation from India, right? And which specifically impacts business and the way the global organization does business itself, right? Um, Also, if you look at it historically, a lot of GCOEs have had charters which revolved around end of life or mature stage products, right? Whereas the next wave of growth, the next wave of maturity, in our opinion, will be powered by companies who own a significant share of conceptual stage products, right? Ones that are just being incepted and being incepted from India. Now, for this next wave of growth, right, it's extremely important to have the right talent, new age skills, as well as the mindset, which is quintessential in building, these globalization hubs that we're talking about.
Right. Thanks for us. Uh, I think building the right talent and niche skills definitely are going to be the key drivers. They will continue to be the key drivers of the maturity of the GCCs in India for sure. Now we move on to our next segment where we would talk about the urgent need of making the right balance between GCCs in India and India as a GCC destination. While GCCs were set up with the intention to provide value to their global organizations, they have emerged as a strong contributor to India's progress as well. Not just as an employer and a source of rich skills for the ecosystem, but also as a significant channel to bring global best practices to India, support India's reputation as a global tech major through creation of world leaders, and provide the talent pipeline for India's startups as well. Having said that, I would quickly move to my next question that I would like to pose to Sukanya. Sukanya, in your view, to ensure that India continues to be the preferred destination for GCCs, what should we as a country do?
So I think a couple of things I think, Faraz has touched upon earlier, but I want to stress on a couple of things. I think the first and foremost thing for us is going to be talent, talent, talent. Like I said, it's a game for us to win or for us to lose because the model is proven. India is a pioneer, demand will come. Each one of us have to, and when I say each one of us, I'm talking about on behalf of the GCCs. Each of the GCCs has to look at mass scale deep skilling as a mandate for itself and for the ecosystem. So I would request every organization to look at skilling as a corporate responsibility. Pick up schools, pick up colleges, use your CSR fund, go to, run returnship programs, um, go to colleges and encourage people to take STEM education. I think that is going to be the most important thing. NASSCOM's Future Skills program has been established along with Government of India with that mandate that we need to skill people at large. Help us, work with us to take it to more colleges, convince people. And I think that is, like I said, it's really how much we are willing to invest in skilling because it does take time. It's not like a college graduate is ready-made and, not because the courses or curriculum is not good. It's just there is a gap yet between what they learn and what is used at work. And I wish we had a model like that. I was when watch these TV soaps and Netflix shows where you have a lawyer who works who does court in the morning and takes classes in the evening. I wish we had a model where the professors go to a multinational and they work for 3 days a week and then go take classes for 3 days a week, but that's not true. So we need a lot of support from GCCs to encourage students, to train students, and even train teachers. So that is going to be the first thing. Also the experimenting that we spoke about with smaller towns, smaller this thing, because our larger cities are up to the brim when it comes to infrastructure. So if we have to grow, we have to take the country along. From India and the government's perspective also, there are areas that the government is focused on. There have been a few policy changes that have been pretty much landmark. I mean, the OSP regulation changes that happened in December, which completely brought in a lot of flexibility to work from home, rid the GCCs and companies of a lot of overheads that they had earlier in terms of how they structure and maintain their telco networks, how they report their information, was a very, very significant step towards ease of doing business. Just this week, we had the announcement on GST regulations, and that was a significant way for the government to relieve GCCs of the burden of an extra GST that would be levied on them because of their categorization as an intermediary, which was probably not the right categorization. These have been, so as you see, the government has been moving in the right direction to create some significant steps. There are a few other things which are under consideration, and NASSCOM has been working with the government. Of course, clarity on the SEZ regulations, which will ease up work from anywhere. Clarity on labor laws and codes, which can enable part-time and gig workers. We are working on seeing if we can streamline the entire transfer pricing process, as well as some clarity on the rates that will significantly enhance ease of doing business. We definitely want to see if the government is able to create a stronger support structure for companies who want to experiment with smaller towns. That's another area that we would see how we can support. There are, states like Karnataka, which has a Beyond Karnataka, program where companies that set up, sorry, Beyond Bangalore, my apologies for that. So companies that set up in smaller cities outside Bangalore have advantages. So like that, what can we do with other cities and towns as well? So I think from the industry's point of view, it has to be a lot of talent and a lot of positioning India's capability. Right. And I think that is where the focus has to be. And we obviously, and also positioning this ease of doing business. I want to ensure that every GCC shares these changes with their global stakeholders, shares it on their handle, shares it so that there are 20 other companies who understand that, the government is focused on ensuring ease of doing business. So for me, these would be the few things. Solve your, academia partnership models, solve your startup collaboration models, find those ways of enhancing your talent pool.
Great, that was really very informative, Sukanya. I personally definitely learned a couple of points from what you just explained. So thanks for that. I would quickly move to our next question for Faraz. Faraz, in your opinion, what can we see in the GCC space in the next 3-5 years? Maybe from a talent and industry viewpoint, or maybe beyond these two themes as well, if you would like to add anything to that.
No, absolutely. See, so the next 3 or 5 years are going to be extremely interesting, right? I think we are going to see unprecedented growth, unprecedented change in the ecosystem, right? And for the good, right? If you were to take care of some of the things that Sukanya mentioned, I think we are in for some exciting times. There's no doubt about it, right? Just beyond some of the things we already spoke about, I want to highlight a couple of things. One is what we're going to see significantly change in the next phase of growth is how India contributes to the global leadership pipeline, right? You are going to see increasing number of India leaders taking up global roles and extremely senior positions, yeah, globally. So that's something that we're going to see. Increasing number of headquarters are looking at India for the next line of leaders, right? And we've seen this many cases already, right? India leaders running global portfolios from India, as well as moving to the headquarters and driving multiple, global portfolios as well. So that's number one. Number two is how India is going to become an ecosystem collaboration leader, right? That there's no two doubt in my mind in terms of how, given the pace at which we are churning out unicorns today, right, and the kind of B2B startup growth that we are seeing, I think, and Freshwork being one of the, say, kind of
Yeah, let's
landmark,
clap for them.
right, kind of milestones, I'd say. I see absolutely that's going to be huge potential in the ecosystem collaboration, both with, say, startups and academia. And these are going to be run not only in India, in my opinion, but Indian organizations. GCO is also collaborating with global startups, right? So we're going to see that that a matrix relationship, in my opinion, where GCO is in India are going to collaborate with startups in India as well as global, and vice versa. The third one is how Indian GCOEs are going to almost directly impact top line of organizations through its products and services. I think there's no two thoughts on that as well. Given the fact that from a transactional GCOE, organizations are becoming extremely value-added partners, and the real value will come when organizations really contribute directly or indirectly to the top line of the organization. They've been doing that for the to the bottom line of the organization for many years, but gradually that shift is going to be seen in the vast majority of the ecosystem. And finally, I think this is not spoken about too much. A couple of elements is how India is going to lead the charter on inclusion and on sustainability, right? Given the rapid scale at which we are growing, it will be just unacceptable for us to not think about inclusion and sustainability as our core goals while we are in this growth journey, right? So I think these are the three or four things that I believe personally we'll see significant momentum on in the next wave of growth.
Thanks, Firas. I think definitely, I would say that I can echo with whatever you said, and also with the last point of that was related to inclusion and sustainability. Mostly after the COVID-19 pandemic hit as well, there was a lot of inclusion kind of policies that were released by so many GCCs. So yes, thanks, really informative. Uh, Now I think that let's just go about the table now that we are at our final question, and maybe let's start with Sukanya, you first, for our final question. So, according to you, what is the one word or one thing maybe that will define the GCC industry in the next 5 years, and why?
Sure. So Sonia, before I, answer that, I want to add one more point to what Faraz mentioned. I think everything that he mentioned will be true. I also see how the GCC leaders in India will slowly be managing a network of GCCs globally. Right? I have seen so many in the last couple of months transition onto a role where the India GCCs, and that's also the global role. I mean, that's not the only global role that Firaz was talking about. He was also talking about India leaders being the CTOs, CIOs, head of cybersecurity, etc. But I also see a lot of India center heads who would be running a network of GCCs across, and I see that as a high win-win situation because India's ecosystem is very mature. So yes, the other GCCs can take an advantage from there, and B, we are not going to be in that mode of compete. We'll become in the mode of complement. So it would almost become like, okay, you do this well, we do this well, and together this is what we're going to do. And then that balance is going to be there. So I think that's another point that I wanted to add. To your question, I think the one differentiation, that one word that will define India is going to be ability to take risk. I want to see this industry being willing to challenge itself, take risk, and experiment. It is not very easy. The reason I'm highlighting this is it's not very easy to do so in the structure of a GCC. It's difficult because you're guided by number of regulations, you're guided by number of norms of your headquarters, and then regulations of the industry that you come from, regulations of the country where your headquarters is, and regulations of the country of India. So there are a lot of challenges. But if we can find ways to take risk to prove our point, small risk, small wins, willing to showcase them, and that's a big thing that I want to see in the industry.
Sure. Thanks, Sukanya. Faraz?
Sonia, you asked for one word. I'll give you one word. I feel that word that will synonymize our next wave of growth will be blitzscale. I think, to my earlier point, I think we'll witness unprecedented growth. I think exciting times. If I had a phrase, I'd say the golden era for globalization. That's how I'd put it. But yeah, I think that's what I'll call it.
Great, thank you, Faraz. For me, the one thing or one word or one thing that will define the GCC industry in the next 5 years would be consistency. I could only think of consistency, because consistency in delivering with the best quality and continuously adapting with the augmented digitalization push that we've seen in the past will enhance or augment the GCC's growth journey in India. And I think that's how the GCCs will continue to be the value creators in the ecosystem. Great, excellent way of ending this conversation from Sukanya and Faraz. So we are kind of ending on a note that how do we build that element of trust, and we deliver on them with trust and commitment and high quality. I think I'll conclude by saying that this has been a very interesting and insightful conversation, Sukanya and Faraz. It has touched upon so many things related to the GCCs and brought to light so many insights about what needs to be done from India. I hope that India continues to attract GCCs in numbers, global businesses to its shores, who are looking to tap into its vast workforce and talent to provide multiple capabilities across all possible domains. And with this, I would like to thank both of you. Thank you so much, Sukanya and Faraz, for being with us here today on this discussion. And as this has been a very exciting space, we hope to continue building on this and collaborating in the future as well. So thank you again for joining with us today. Any concluding remarks from you and Sukanya?
No, thank you, Sonia. It's been a great conversation. Thank you, Faraz. Always enjoy chatting with you, and look forward to doing a similar discussion next year, this time where the industry has exceeded the numbers that we have predicted.
Absolutely. With that optimism, thank you so much for the opportunity, Sonia, Sukanya. It's been great chatting and good learning.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.